First, everybody, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. My name is Stephen Perez. I'm the Director of Education and Training. I see some names that of people that I'm not familiar with. So welcome. The way that we usually work is if you have a question, ask your question. And if I mean, there's collectively, we have about 1,000 years of officiating experience here. I, by all means, do not have all of the answers, but I think together as a group, we can come up with kind of a consensus and sharing what has worked and what doesn't work. So if you are a new official, developing official, you've just been doing youth, welcome. And please, we're here to help. I think every one of us has had mentorship from others in this group. And we are here because we want to get better as a group. And we want to be the best officials group in the state of Wisconsin. Tonight, I wanted to talk about 3 things. We have 3 different plays. One is a very unusual play. It happened, it's on the screen right now, Middleton Wanakee. We have some officials on the call. And what I want to look at is how we can officiate this play. It's a weird play. And I hadn't seen it before, and it's caused some discussion. And I just want to talk about, we have plays near the boundary line all the time. And so how can we, as a group of officials or as a covering official, how can we put ourselves in the best position to see a play? This play is unusual, but at the youth level, you hear parents all the time say, ride him out or push him out. And this involves for us to be effective in managing that play, we need to be at or near the boundary line and knowing where to look. For those of you that are new, my approach is I look at this idea called field of vision. And so it's where we're looking, and I refer to, you'll see it in the slides, kind of 3 different ways to see plays. We'll talk about a narrow field of vision, a wide field of vision, and a medium field of vision. And those are just general terms. And I've talked a lot. What questions are there so far? All right, cool. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to watch this. We're going to watch this play. It is Middleton Wanakee, and what we're looking at is how the officials are officiating this play. Drake is, I'm going to put you out there, Drake. Drake is the covering official, as you can see on the screen. He's about 8 yards below GLE, trying to get into a spot so he can watch this play as it develops. So let's watch. Okay, we can watch it again. The whole thing takes like 5 seconds. And so there's a lot of stuff happening. But let's watch it again and start thinking about what is it that you see here? Comment. What do we see? What is happening in this clip? Let's start there. What are people seeing? Take yourself off mute. Offer your perspective. This is a general question. There's no right or wrong. What is it? What's happening? I'd like to hear some thinking. Anybody?
Well, I'm not sure what it's like for other people's video feed, but video feed is a little choppy, at least on my end. But I do know the play you're talking about.
Okay.
And
So
what it looks like, it is the goalie being ridden out of bounds. The goalie's being ridden out of bounds in an attempt to keep the play continuing. The goalie appears to throw his stick with possession of the ball still in the stick.
Okay. So we have, okay, anyone else? What else do we see happening?
Can you replay it one more time, Steve?
Sure. Gonna see it again?
Looks like the goalie turns his back just at the last moment before the body check is applied.
Okay. Any possible fouls? What do we see? Let's go to this. All right, so we have a play near a boundary line. Let's talk about how to best see this play. So first, the first term I'm going to use is a wide field of vision. A wide field of vision is a field of vision that allows the official to see multiple players, positions, movements, and or passing lanes with few details. You're looking at the big, broad picture as play develops. You use this all the time. And especially in a two-man game, you're going to have to rely on a wider field of vision because there's only two people. Another field of vision is a medium field of vision. Here we have, I term it as like medium. I see head to toe, two opposing players. I can see head to toe, two opposing players contesting a ball. You can see some details, such as the color of their sticks or their uniform numbers. And when we have a really narrow field of vision, that is, we see the details such as the exact point of contact when a player is checked, or that a player touched the ball with the ring finger of his left hand on a faceoff. And so that is a super narrow field. When we go to this play, seeing the play, we have an unsettled situation. And if we look at the picture here, the covering official is doing a great job of keeping his hips and his head on the play. So we put ourselves in position by creating angles where we can see what is happening. We want to avoid situations where we're looking over our shoulder because we don't have the best angle on the play. So as the play moves towards the boundary, keep your head up and hips open to the play by using a shuffle step and using a wide field of vision. In this situation, we don't know what's happening. We see it's unsettled. And so we have to anticipate, what is the goalie going to do? So the goalie has limited options. And there's no contact yet, but we're going to keep that wide field of vision. We know that boundary's coming, but keeping a wider field of vision allows us to see that whole play. Next, we have contact near the boundary line. Now we're going to narrow our field of vision. We got to monitor the contact of the righting player. So we're going to establish, like, where's the point of contact? What is the status of the player on the field? By narrowing that, but not all the way to the point of contact, then we can see head to toe. We can have an idea where the boundary line is. Given more time, we could hustle down there and get on the boundary line. So we put our left foot or our right foot there. And as soon as that player is at or near the boundary line, we're already there. Questions on anything I've said so far? Next, as that play continues, see where the righting player is contacting his opponent to determine whether the contact's legal or not. And looking at the play, what I saw given this angle, I see legal contact. The player is contacting, he's maintaining contact. He's not thrusting through the player. He's not pushing the player, pulling his stick back and then pushing him again. He just rides him out. And now, as he gets closer, we're going to shift our field of vision to know the points of contact and see the player's location on the field. So we cannot stare at anything at this point because there's one official and you got about a billion things going on. So now we have the play near the boundary line. We have to change the field of vision to see more action of the play. We, again, do not stare, because if you stare, you're either going to miss the foot out of bounds, or if we're staring at the feet, we're going to miss some contact. And if we hear like head contact, it's like, how did that happen? So reminders, focusing too narrowly on the feet, compromising knowing if the contact is legal. Focusing on the wider contact compromises seeing the goalkeeper's feet. So we have to actively use our eyes and move our feet to get an angle to see what is happening on the play. So that's a lot of work. Now we have throwing the cross. We have to keep officiating. We see the thrown cross. What is the status of the ball? Is it live? Is it dead? Is there any malicious contact afterwards? What does the player do? So we see the cross. Automatically, our eyes are going to go to the cross. The cross isn't going to cause a foul because the ball may or may not be in the cross, but we have two players that are tangled up. So we have to keep officiating that play. If our head goes with the cross, who knows what's going to happen down there? So we're going to keep our heads and eyes on the play by keeping your hips open to the play, in this case, perpendicular to the boundary line. Now, continuing to officiate, we got to know the rules. So in conversations with other officials, there's a couple of different things that we could have had. So we all know that withholding, the ball is trapped underneath a cross, it's being withheld. That's a technical foul. So in that situation, the Middleton player, the ball is being withheld by the Middleton player. Wadakee is going to get the ball. So that's one situation that we have to be aware of. Next, we have throwing the cross at a player. You cannot throw the cross at a player, the ball, or anything on the field. And so the foul for that is a 1 to 3 minute unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. And in this case, we have what under situation 652 situation R specifically talks about the actions of a goalkeeper in an unsettled situation. Now, in this situation, or in the description, we have some words that are it says unsettled, so there's a lot of judgment there. And then also in this description, it also talks about intentionally does things, but it says intentionally breaks the stick. But I think that is an example of what the goalkeeper may do. But to me, the key words is unsettled situation, and then the result of which is a stoppage in play. So the situation says it's like intentionally breaks the stick or drops the glove in an attempt to get a stoppage in play. These actions and what my interpretation is what the goalie did. There was an unsettled situation. He threw his cross, the result of which is going to be a whistle. Then people are like, well, was it intentional? Was it not? We have a situation where it is unsettled. Comments, questions, concerns, discussion. Everybody's good with that?
What those guys, Steve, what'd they call?
Drake, you were there, Matt was there, and Dave was there. Those were the officials.
So what we called, so Dave was single side. So he had that more full-on view as I was following the play to the line. And what we had was the Wanakee player, contact started around the football goal line on the hip, and he just continued riding him out. So what we had is once the goalie released his stick, I killed it for the withholding, and then Dave had the flag for throwing the stick for the unsportsmanlike conduct. I believe we did 2 minutes for it on the goalie.
This is a very unusual play. But again, our takeaway isn't the rarity of it, but it is covering that line and putting ourselves in the best position to see it. And watching it, the lead official Drake does a great job of getting below GLE, heading towards that boundary line, keeps his head on the play and officiates it all the way through. And if we could do that, we're setting ourselves up to be successful. Questions, comments, concerns, more discussion, anything? Next one. Let's talk a little bit about offsides. There there was a clip earlier this season. The Syracuse offensive coordinator got ejected because the officials allowed a goal to be scored by Cornell when they were offsides. In my opinion, offsides is the most difficult call that we make in infield lacrosse because there's a lot of stuff happening. People that are more experienced, how do you get offsides right? Who feels confident in their ability to call offsides? They can give us tips, because let's see. Mr. Gasser.
Well,
What
you
do
got to
you-
make sure that you are counting ahead.
Counting ahead, okay. So that's one thing that you're always doing. So you're not,
And that
we're
you're
gonna
not-
ignore the back, we're gonna ignore
You're not
the
looking
defensive
back
zone.
at.
Yeah.
Correct.
And what else? What's another
I don't
tip?
ignore it completely. I use it as a clue. I use it as a clue, but I do not rely solely on the number of players behind. I am looking ahead, and I'm also taking a peek in the penalty box, or mentally remembering if we're serving a penalty, because that's going to affect the number of players that are legally allowed to be in the attacking zone. And I try to be set in a spot. So in the 3-man mechanic, a lot of times it's easiest when you are the single side. If you're planted at the cone,
Yep.
it is, and if you're in a set spot and you're not moving, it's easier to count.
Okay. Max, how do you approach offsides? What is your philosophy and practice there, my friend?
So 2 ways. One, if it's in transition and I'm the single side, I first do a quick check and see, okay, we've got 3 on the offensive side. So I know I've got 3. Then I get to the cone and I'm watching the next 3 hop over.
Yep.
And if I see a 4th hop over, then I know I've got something that we need to call. I also count twice because I don't want to stop the game when I shouldn't for something like that. And I count offense first because we want to take away a goal first if there's 7 over, or wave off a timeout, which has happened too if the coaches realize it before we do. We got to count the 7 on the offense first. And then the other thing is, once you get in a settled situation, count. If there's nothing going on right in front of you, count again to make sure that we've got the 6 and 6. I've had multiple times this season where I've called offsides from the lead in that situation because we've been settled. Sometimes the trail is coming in late and we've got a 7th guy over, so we have a flag.
Thank you, sir. A couple of things that I heard Max say that I would like to, that were shared with me, and Kyle said the same thing. One is count forward. You're counting the guys in front of you, and we count offense first. We do not want to be a goal scored with the offense in an offside position. So another thing that Max said is, we know we have 3 attackmen, and so what I would suggest is, again, counting 4, 5, and 6. And as they transition, going back and forth, if we have a 10-man ride or contested play at or near the midline, what the narrative that I have in my head is like, I have 4, I have 4, I have 4, I have 5. I go back to 4 because the guy's going over. So I'm sitting there, I feel like from the movie Rain Man, where I'm just counting 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 6. And then we move on. But I count my 3. I know my 3 are down there or below the attack box, or I have 3 attackmen, and I'm just counting 4, 5, 6. And as the defense comes over, or as they're riding, usually if I have an attackman come in, I know that I have my 3 poles, and I'm also keeping track of people that are defenders in my peripheral vision. And as that attackman closes, you'll hear the fans say, he's over, but they might only have 4 attackmen because they got an LSM in the sub box. And so you can feel confident in that way. But I would suggest just try counting 4, 5, 6. And whether, like, one of the things that works for me is I count helmets instead of jerseys. So my eyes are up. I just try to be consistent counting helmets. I'm not as accurate. I don't feel as comfortable counting jerseys, but helmets are helpful to me. And so again, just counting those 4, 5s, and 6s and counting forward. And like Max said, constantly recount. Some of the mentors that I've had just remind me to count all the time. If I'm watching, and even in settled situations, I count my offensive and defensive matchups to make sure that no one is offsides. I count my polls all the time. As players are subbing on, usually during the course of a game, I'll have an idea of who's subbing on for who, and then where they're going to sub. Are they going to sub from the box, or are they going to sub from the midline? And so just being aware of those things helps you put yourself in a position where you can see the offsides. If they're subbing from the center of the field across midline, then I'm watching the guy in the sub box enter before that guy goes over. And so you can pick up things that way. And a lot of times, if you hear too many, give a quick count. And if you hear in high school, if you hear timeout, count again. And even if you like, a timeout doesn't buy an offsides out, so you can still flag it. You can kill it, and it's like, okay, they're offsides. You're still offsides. And then turn and ask the coach, you were offsides. Do you still want timeout? And a lot of times they're going to be like, no. Questions, comments, concerns, discussion.
Hey,
Mark, what do
Steve,
you got, Mark?
one of the things that you taught me long ago was there is no statute of limitations for offsides.
Yes.
It's not a foul that you got to catch right in the moment. You get a kid, you get these kids, he runs over and then he jumps back because he realizes he's over. Well, the first thing you need to do is make sure that they don't have 5, because
Right.
he's not offsides. He may think he's offsides, but he's not offsides.
Right.
I think too, there are some moments where we have to be really vigilant to an offsides. For example, when a pole decides to pick up a ground ball and bust a move, there's a very good likelihood if that team doesn't have it coordinated that we're going to have an offsides. Or when the goalie decides that he wants to take the ball and run it into the offensive side of the field, we got to make sure that we've got enough people back to not be an offside. And every time that occurs, especially if I'm the trail and a 2-man, I am just counting like crazy to make sure that I got, everybody in the right place or where they need to be.
Yep. Thank you, Mark.
Hey, Steve, can you hear me or no?
Yes.
This is Dwyer. Do you have any tips for when it's a 10-man ride, right? Because the people most likely to be off on the 10-man are the riding team, right?
Yeah.
So we're typically counting offense first, but you're needing to count defense going over and being tricked thinking the goalie is one of the defenders on an attackman, right? So are there
So
do you have any tips or
what's been suggested to me, Mike, is as that lead official, when you see a team setting up in a 10-man ride in a 2-man or a 3-man system, as the lead, I do not commit. I stop in between the top of the box and the midfield line. So I'm there to help.
so you're kind of like the wing line?
Yeah, I will do my best to get to the wing line and plant myself. And then I have, in this case, I'm counting defense. So I know that they have 3 up front. I'm just doing the opposite. I'm watching the player, usually from the sub box, that will step in the offensive zone or in the defensive zone. And then that far guy doing the same thing, where they're trying to, those are my guys that are going to be offsides. It's rarely in the middle of the field. So I don't commit all the way down. If I see a 10-man ride, I I get to the sideline, the intersection of the sideline and the top of the box. So I can help.
You're saying
So I
in
can
2-man
help
you're doing that, or on 3
in
as well?
2-man and 3-man.
Okay.
Yeah, so as in 2-man, I get to the boundary line so I could see players coming in and out. Whether they're on or off the field. And then from the wing line, I'm trusting the defense to kind of cause some congestion so then I can get to the goal line. But I don't commit all the way down. And I'm there to help. And in a 3-man, like we'll have that triangulated pretty tightly. But in a 2-man, I don't commit I only commit to the top of the box.
Gotcha.
And I count defense. And so my dog is back in the back throwing her toy. Last thing tonight, Mike Mike had a question for me. We were talking about, it's a you make the call situation. Team A has the ball near the end of the quarter. Team B cross-checks Team A. Then prior just to time expiring, Team A shoots. While the ball is in the air, the horn sounds and the ball goes directly into the goal. How do you start the next quarter? Does Team A have possession, or is there a man down face-off? What do you got? Who's gonna?
I think it's man down face off.
Why, Chris?
Because it's not dead ball. It's
Okay.
live ball.
It's a live ball foul. Okay, so we have that part. And then what would the status of the ball, how does that impact the play?
Well, let's see that he's going to cross check and then flag down. I guess
Okay.
I would fill in a little bit of that with
Okay.
slow whistle.
Yep.
And then they shoot and score. You
Yep.
adjudicate the penalty with a good goal.
Okay.
And then
okay.
you go man down face.
All right. That's a good explanation, Chris. Good job. Yeah, that's a good explanation. Coach says, why don't we get the ball? And what I heard Chris say was the goal adjudicates the foul. That sounds pretty good. Any other comments, questions, concerns, discussions? What if it was a dead ball?
On the call?
What?
I said, is Saunders on the call? Because I know he's got an opinion on it.
No, I mean, Scott and we talked about it too.
I think he's
What
the
if
one
it's a
that
dead
taught me
ball?
that.
What if we have a dead ball foul? So we have a shot, quarter ends, and now the kid cross-checks the shooter.
Then yeah, you award possession to the team offender.
Why?
Because it's after the fact, it's dead ball.
And the flag denotes possession.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the flag, in this case, the foul was after the goal. And so to adjudicate the foul, instead of awarding the goal, because the goal's already been awarded, then we're going to give you the ball. You're exactly right. Good job, boys. And I see Samantha, I don't know if that's someone, is that we have a female official, but pardon my generalization of gender. How would you justify making it?
That's just my wife showing up. You don't have a female. It's my wife showing up.
Alex had a question. How would you justify making a 2-minute locked in versus a 3-minute locked in? I need more context.
Well, Alex is a youth official, I'm pretty sure.
But
so you can just make something up. What are you looking for in
like
a 2
to the head.
What are you looking for in a 3?
Okay,
Yeah.
So general kind of adjudications from a 2-minute to a 3-minute. One, Alex, is when we have contact to the head, that is automatically going to be a non-releasable penalty. And so if we're ruling head contact, we have a couple of choices. What I would suggest, and I don't know how other people work, but I look at it as an escalation. If I have just contact to the head, right, we're going to go with, if it's contact to the head, we're going to have 2 minutes. If it's contact to the head and then like a push through the head or a egregious, violent, uncontrolled, it's contact to the head plus something else. So whenever I get into the additional minutes, I start looking at plus something else.
Severity of contact, right?
Yeah, severity of contact. And then the contact was to the head, plus it was out of control, or plus it was malicious. It wasn't just a contact to the head kind of in a lacrosse type of play.
Or how about a plus, he
In the-
stands over him?
Yeah, I mean, and
That's-
so then, yeah,
that
it's
could be
like
a
those
separate
additional
penalty
things.
though. Like that's
Yeah, that could be.
You could,
The thing,
and
the thing I'd
but-
recommend if you're escalating it and you're not sure, talk to your partner, see what
Yeah.
he saw. You know, come together and get your story straight
And so
figure out what you want to adjudicate.
we have, I don't know if it's on the WILOA site, Alex, but I have an escalation chart of that probably better explains how to go from the basic fouls to the more severe penalties that we can certainly put up. I can share it, and then we can put it up on the WILOA site just as a resource. But there is a document that shows like what those plus things are, and kind of my intent was to help kind of develop the thought process of how more experienced officials kind of see stuff. Yeah, we can do that for you. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Good to the group.
I tried to chime in earlier when you were talking about the goalie throwing the stick.
Okay.
Can you go back to that slide?
Goalie throwing the stick. Give me 1 second.
Because, like, I mean, I have issues giving 2 minutes for it, right? Like,
Okay.
he didn't throw a stick at anybody, right? So that penalty's not a penalty, right? Withholding, possibly. Yeah, I get what you're saying, unsettled. He's just trying to keep the ball in bounds. Like, if he would have just gone out of bounds, it's a turnover. Now we're putting him in the box for 2 minutes because he tried to keep the ball in bounds. That doesn't seem right. Like, spirit of the rule, I guess. It's how it's written versus what was he trying to do. He didn't like take off his helmet or lose a glove on accident. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he could have just stepped out of bounds and it would have ended the play, and he would have got, if that's what he's trying, that's what he would have gotten the result of, right?
I don't know. He's a high school goalie, and talking to the coach, he said he's panicked. He said that the goalie's panicked. And so I mean, how many, like, coaches know
I also
that
chimed in late to the video, so I didn't see the play. I'm just going off of what I think probably happened.
So the coach said he panicked and he didn't know what to do. And so he threw the stick. And so there is a situation that addresses throwing the stick in an unsettled situation. And so that's what the rule says. So poor Mikey.
Does it define unsettled situation?
No.
It means a situation that's not settled, Mike.
Unsettled.
Thanks, Don.
It says unsettled situation. Yeah, like I said, maybe you didn't hear it, but it says unsettled situation, and then it uses the word intention. And so the coach was saying he didn't intentionally throw the stick.
Yeah.
But that's not, it's in the example.
Like that.
It's in the example. But Mike, we can continue this discussion off.
Sorry. I don't mean to
it's 7:35, and you guys, I don't want to keep anybody extra long. But we have, let me check the chat, and then why can't we have more? Alex with his eye black. I'm the king of eye black.
Perfect question for Steve.
Yes. So Alex, the eye black thing. In the National Federations has 1 inch wide, 1 inch long. And the backstory why this is so funny to me is the whole eye black thing started in California in the like early to mid 90s, and it started in basketball. Because kids in Southern California were wearing eye black and then having gang symbols written in the eye black. And so having lived in California, was like, that's what, that became kind of the adopted rule for the National Federation. 1 inch wide, 1 inch long, single strip, no writing on it. And a lot of kids, a lot of youth players see the college players and they want to be like that. And then you break their hearts by saying no.
Steve, can I tell you just a quick funny story
Sure.
about that? So Alex asked me to speak to his team before the season about rules and rules changes and just
If you guys got to
just
go,
in
go ahead
general.
and go. But we can hang out. Go ahead.
Anyway, so I said, so we got through all this stuff, and I said, okay, you guys can ask me anything. The number one question from those boys was about eye black.
And why Perez always makes us take it off.
No, and I told him, I said, the guy who's in charge of training all of the officials in Wisconsin is like an eye black Nazi. So you get one stripe. That's it. We talked about it. That's the rule.
But it's a rule.
The rule.
Right,
So,
but so like that, so that's the rule, but they're allowed to like tape the chin part of their helmet and write whatever Bible passage they want, or gang sign, or whatever code that I don't know.
I'm trying to change that, by the way.
Some kid from Franklin has
But
IKEA written on his because he lives by IKEA.
Yeah, so I'm trying to change that rule too. I'm trying to I'm trying to rewrite that one.
there was a
The
kid
no
last
fun
night
league
that
got
had a
it.
Bible verse on his
I know.
Right,
on tape
right.
on his
Yeah.
on his helmet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
Anybody else? Well, thank you. We have another one scheduled. And Don, when is our next one? Next week?
So next week is at 8:00.
Yeah,
it's a little different because we have a special guest. So that one very important to attend to. Yeah, I don't know if PJ wants to give that answer, but maybe. But yeah, 8:00 next Sunday. I'll make sure a message goes out about that, of course.
All right.
Reminder.
Thanks, everybody. 8 p.m. next week. Have fun and send me your questions. And this helps me put together these presentations. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening.
Steve, where do we send those to?
You can send them to, if you look in the chat, I will put my email address because I don't have an iPhone. So everybody else is use an iPhone.
It doesn't have blue bubbles.
I have.
You can also go to the WILOA.org, contact us, and there's a link to email the training director.
Yeah.
Just trainer.wiloa@gmail.com.
Or
Get the officials at AOL.
Or you can send it to perez.steven@proton.me.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Is this the same email I should give out to parents who have questions about our officials that day in terms of in regards to how we officiated that game?
Sure.
Tell that Bayport mom she's wrong, Mateo, and just keep walking. WIAWI.org, become an official.
WIAW.
That's what your extra whistle's for. Just hand it to them.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right.
Thanks, Steve.
See you later, skaters.
Thanks, dude.